Hello, I'm Robert Green. I'm your host with this month's edition of Momentum. Happy to be joining the studio today with Bethany Mills. Bethany is the Executive Director of the Career Center at Mississippi State University. I want to talk to her some about what her Career Center can do for students and alumni and faculty. So Bethany, welcome back.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
It's been a while since we've had you here, so how about a quick refresher? Just give us an overview of your office and what you do, who you serve, and how you can help people.
Absolutely. So, the purpose of our office is to really help prepare students for life after graduation and making sure they're prepared for the workforce. So we're helping students from everything from major exploration, so finding that kind of major career path, to getting their resume ready for a job or internship search, to networking. We do tons of career events at the Career Center, and then of course kind of helping them go off into that workplace with their applications and getting them connected to jobs and that sort of thing. So really rewarding job that we do.
Yeah, and you're doing a good job. We're getting good results from that. Yeah. You mentioned helping students do some career exploration and all. I know I've sent students over there in the past to do the strong inventory to help them sort of figure out what they want to do. Yep. Tell us a little bit more about that. What sort of instruments do you use? What kind of help can you provide students who are really uncertain about what they want to do?
Absolutely, and I think it's really normal for students to feel uncertain about their majors. We have so many majors at Mississippi State, and some even new majors, right? We keep incorporating new majors, which is awesome. The first thing I would really encourage them to do, like you said, is to reach out to the Career Center. We actually have a dedicated staff member. She's our Assistant Director of Career Exploration. Her name's Toria Carter. She's amazing. And if she were to work with students who are exploring, she might, of course, give them some homework to do some career assessments. Okay. That's our strong interest inventory, which is a $20 fee for students to take. We have the Type Focus, which is a free resource for students that gives them interest, personality assessment, as well as skills and values. And then we'll often even refer them to a free interest profiler, which is through ONET Interest Profiler. So that's a way they can kind of get some feedback just to see where their interests lie, and then what careers line up with those kind of interests, and then what majors might tie them to those interests as well. So that's what we're really doing. We want to give them some concrete information. We want to assess where they are with their interests, skills, etc. And then we want them to see their options, right? So Toria might walk them through an exercise where they look at all the majors at Mississippi State and they start to cross out the majors that they're not interested in. That's usually a lot easier for students to do. Yeah. And then they might circle some they don't know about or they're interested in. So we'll look at the bulletin with them. We'll look at different programs, of course, in college websites and programs, the criteria, the classes associated, and kind of get them in the mindset of where they see themselves, essentially, in the classroom every day, the types of experiences that they may have in that particular program. And then hopefully that will narrow it down to one or two, right? And then they just kind of have to make a decision about that in the end. So it's a great process. It really is internal. They really self-select, but we're kind of guiding them through and facilitating that for them.
Yeah, that's one thing I found. A lot of times students know what they want to do. They just have a hard time deciding.
Absolutely.
So what role does their academic advisor have to play in this process?
Yeah, I think the academic advisor is really crucial, right? Because we want our students to graduate in a timely fashion. We want them to stay, of course, at Mississippi State. And so for the academic advisor to work alongside our career advisors, where they're looking at the course schedules, they're looking at the classes that are also might work for another major. So there's some parallel planning there and major mapping, if you will, for some similar majors that will get them to where they want to go ultimately in the end, but maybe require a few less classes if we're strategic about that. And I think just conversations too around the mapping out of their course schedule over the next few years. We're not going to do that at the Career Center, but their academic advisor could really help them see long-term what their classes will look like, what their undergraduate career will look like, which I think is just really instrumental to the process.
Yeah. So obviously one of the things you do is help students find a job after they graduate, and I know that's a major factor for their parents, at least.
Yes.
And a lot of students just, where can I make the most money? And I think you'd agree with me that that's not always the best way to make a decision about finding a job. Even in engineering, when we have a lot of students who'll choose sort of a non-traditional path.
Right.
What advice or suggestions do you have for students or even alumni who are considering a career change? What should they look for in their next job?
Yeah, this is a really great question. I do think that a lot of our students right now are really focused on security and stability. We have found that in our conversations with our current student population, which I think could mean money, but it might also just mean stability in the job market. And so one thing they could be looking at are those careers or majors that are lending to more growth, job growth, long term. And so looking in your state, what are the growing industries? When you're looking at job postings, what are the similar job titles you're seeing more and more? That's giving you an idea of a stable job, of a stable industry that maybe you hadn't thought about before. So I think kind of expanding those options to kind of consider the reality of the job market, the economy, and what that looks like, I think is really important if you're thinking about a career change. The other thing I want to say about making a career change, especially for maybe those alumni who are out there seeking I thought I wanted to do this and now I'm 3 to 5 years in, which also is very typical, and this isn't it.
Yeah.
Look at your skill set. Put major aside for the moment and really look at the skills that you've gained. Perhaps you've been an engineer, but the thing you've really done the most is project management. That could exist in a lot of different industries, in a lot of different career fields. And so I think if you can hone in on the skills that you've really gained and that you're noticing you have a real strength in, this is a skills-based job market right now. And there's a lot of employers out there who less concerned maybe with the major or the area of expertise and much more concerned about the skill sets that they can bring to the table. So just capitalize on that part of what you've been gaining and gaining experience in. Yeah.
Well, engineering has typically been a good field to go into and
Yes.
had relatively good employment. Given we got some political and economic instability right now, can you look into your crystal ball and give us an idea? Is engineering still a good field, do you think, to go into? Are there any specific disciplines that look more promising than others for students who are sort of in it for the long haul?
Yeah, it is. I wish I could tell you. I wish I had more predictability about the economy in the next few years. I am living a little bit month by month, to be quite honest, and just making sure I'm staying on top of trends. But I do think there's a few things that I would suggest. And again, it's keeping up with the climate enough so that we're able to see potential in what could happen, right? And so perhaps federal government, for example, has seen a decline in jobs, but there's actually been an increase in state. And so I think it's looking at some of those things. So maybe it's not no government at all, right? Which some students were like, oh, I can't look at the government jobs right now because they're not there. They're more at the state level than they are at the federal level. I think engineers have a lot of stability still. The infrastructure of just the U.S. And maintaining the infrastructure, I think we're still seeing building construction science being a really popular major, as well as engineering, of course. AI and machine learning, that's data technology, supply chain logistics. These are all majors that I'm continuously seeing employers recruitment for, along with so many other majors. And like I said, it really is more of a skills-based job. You'll notice a lot of employers not care as much about GPA, for example. They're really looking for those experiences that are more relevant, or the skills. So I think there's a lot of there's a little bit more of an open opportunity for students to consider how their major will apply to different jobs, which is kind of great. So yeah.
So we've talked in the past before about our students being prepared for interviews, and it seems like employers are happy with their knowledge and their skills, and they're doing a pretty good job in their interviews. Always room for improvement. But I think one area that you've noted some employers pointing out is they're not really familiar with the companies they're talking to.
Yes.
What kind of research should students or anyone looking for a job really do on the company they're interviewing with, and how should they go about doing that, especially in light of AI that you just mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for a student to just go to the website, right, and investigate and poke around on, looking at the careers, looking at the opportunities for professional development, looking at the opportunities for, is there a community-driven service, for example, that company might be committed to, the social media presence, the brand, how is it represented? I think there's a lot of ways that a student can do some research for the company, and it's really using all of those mediums. I think AI is also a great way to pull some really great information. Just want to make sure it's reputable, of course, and vouch for that information, where it comes from. But I'll just say, I can't express enough to students when they're interviewing for a role how important that research is, because where that shows up in an interview are the questions that they ask. And so there's nothing better to show an interest in a company than to show them you've done a little research and you have some follow-up questions.
Yeah.
And what does that look like in an interview? And that shows your enthusiasm, your genuine interest, and that you took the time to do a little preparation, right, which is all great things.
And at least know what the company makes.
Correct.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's their product is important.
So one of the things your office works with is helping students develop their resume and cover letters and get all that right. But that's sort of at the end of the process. Got about a minute or so here. Help students understand, what do they need to be doing while they're in school so that they actually have some content to put in the resume that is going to get the attraction of their employers.
Absolutely. I mentioned earlier that employers are tending to care less about GPA because they are most interested in their relevant experiences. And whether that is a co-op, right, an internship, part-time work experience that they've gained while they've been in school, a research project that they've tag-teamed in a department, to even classroom projects that they're able to discuss on their resume. The purpose of all of those activities and experiences is to, again, show the employer the skill set that you gained and that you are able to apply what you've learned in the classroom into the working world. So any of those opportunities to add those to your toolbox and to your resume are going to be really crucial to finding a job.
Yeah. So in about 20 seconds, you just hired someone in your office to work specifically with engineering students. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, Mallory Smith is amazing. She's the new career advisor for the College of Engineering, just as you said. And her role is to help the student in the College of Engineering from first day they step on campus. So everything that we discussed earlier, major exploration, career, finding co-op, internship, to finding the job at the very end of their experience. So she should cover the whole, undergraduate experience and career development.
Well, we're certainly looking forward to working with her,
she's great,
and appreciate working with you and all you're doing for our students, and look forward to continuing this relationship. I want to thank you all for joining us on this edition of Momentum, and look forward to seeing you next time.